You know how we think about creativity? It's usually this magical, mysterious spark, right? Something that only strikes a few geniuses out of the blue. But what if that's not the whole story? What if the world around us, our jobs, our schools, our teams, has the power to either ignite that spark or just snuff it out completely? To really see what I mean, let's start with one of the biggest names in history.
I mean, think about Albert Einstein. We think of him as the ultimate genius, but his creativity was almost completely crushed by a rigid, high-pressure school environment. It wasn't until he got into a place that actually valued independent thought that his mind was really set free. And this isn't just some fun trivia. It's a huge clue that even the greatest minds are powerfully shaped by their surroundings.
So, that brings us right to the heart of it all. Is creativity some fixed trait you're just born with, a gift for the lucky few? Or is it something a lot more fragile, something that our social world can either nurture and grow or completely stifle into silence?
To figure that out, we have to first understand the old way of thinking, the view that really dominated for decades. Let's call it the myth of the lone genius.
For years and years, the accepted wisdom was that creativity was just an internal trait, simple as that. You either had it or you didn't. It was seen as just a part of your personality, kind of like being shy or being outgoing.
And this wasn't just any trait. Oh no, it was considered incredibly rare. The idea was that the world was basically split into two groups. A huge majority of, well, normal, non-creative people, and then this tiny special group who had this incredible gift.
So, the conclusion was pretty straightforward. Creative geniuses are just a fundamentally different kind of person. The whole goal was just to find them, get out of their way, and hope they made something cool. The idea that we could actually cultivate creativity in more people, that wasn't even part of the conversation. But then, when social scientists started looking a little closer, this really simple story started to fall apart. They found all these little contradictions, these whispers of doubt that suggested there had to be something more going on.
These doubts started chipping away at that old myth. For starters, researchers noticed that even geniuses aren't creative 24/7. They have good days and bad days. And their motivation? It goes up and down. Plus, things like brainstorming exercises suggested that maybe creativity could be a skill you can learn. And we've all seen how social pressure and conformity can just shut down new ideas in a room. But the most shocking discovery, the real bombshell, was that offering external rewards, things like money or prizes, could actually make people less creative.
Yeah, that last point was the big one. It was the discovery that led researchers to a single, unbelievably powerful factor that acts like a light switch for our creativity: motivation.
This all led to what is now a core idea in this field, the intrinsic motivation principle of creativity. And honestly, it's a total game changer. It basically says that when you're intrinsically motivated, you're in a mental state that is perfect for creative thinking. But when you're extrinsically motivated, that state is actually bad for creativity.
So what's the difference? Well, intrinsic motivation is all about what comes from inside you. You do something because you love it, because it's interesting, or because you just enjoy the challenge. The work itself is the reward. Extrinsic motivation is all the outside stuff. You're doing the work to get a paycheck, to win an award, or to hit a deadline. The work is just a step to get something else. And this chart shows you the real-world effect so clearly. In these classic experiments, people were asked to do a creative task, like making a collage. Now, one group was just told to play around and have fun with it, no strings attached. They produced incredibly creative stuff. But the other group, they were told their work was going to be judged by experts. And guess what? Their creativity just plummeted. The simple expectation of being judged flipped the switch from intrinsic to extrinsic, and that creative spark just fizzled out.
Okay, so armed with this huge new understanding of motivation and the environment, researchers could finally build a much more complete and, frankly, a much more accurate model for how creativity really works.
It's called the componential theory of creativity. Now, it sounds a little academic, but the idea is brilliant. Instead of just focusing on the person or just focusing on the environment, it combines them. It says that real creativity happens at the intersection. It's the interaction between a person's internal skills and the social world they're in.
So this theory lays out 3 key ingredients that you bring to the table. First, domain-relevant skills. Pretty simple. You got to know your stuff. A creative chef needs to know how to cook. Second, creativity-relevant processes. This is all about how you think. Are you open-minded? Do you try different approaches to a problem? And third, there it is again, intrinsic task motivation. You have to genuinely love doing the work.
And here is the most important part of this whole formula. This is the kicker. These 3 components don't just add together, they multiply.
And what that means is if any one of them is at zero, your total creativity is also zero. You could be the world's leading expert with the most flexible mind on the planet, but if you have zero interest in what you're doing, you will produce zero creative work. Period.
So let's take all this out of the lab and into the real world. How does this new formula for creativity change how we should approach our work, our schools, and how we collaborate with each other?
Well, the theory makes one thing crystal clear. While your environment can definitely shape your skills and your thinking style over the long run, its most direct, immediate, and powerful impact is on your motivation. Your boss, your team, your company's culture, they are constantly turning that motivation dial up or down, day in and day out.
And research has found this in some really specific ways. For example, with teams, just a few minutes of real, genuine connection in the very beginning can actually predict higher creativity months down the line. For managers, micromanaging and constantly monitoring your people kills creativity. But giving helpful developmental feedback, that fuels it. And on the biggest scale, organizations that give people autonomy and support their passion consistently get more creative and innovative results. It's not a mystery anymore.
And all of this leads to a really powerful final takeaway. The old model, the myth of the genius, was all about finding the needles in the haystack. But the new science tells us that's the completely wrong goal. The real challenge, and the much bigger opportunity, is to stop searching for these magical people and to start building magical environments. Environments where the creative potential that already exists in all of us has a real chance to flourish.